I thought it would be a good moment to give you a little bit of a... You might be considering the Sony ZV-E1, and now that I've had mine for a little bit over 6 months, I felt that it was a good moment to just share how has it been to use it for this time. The reasons that you might have been considering this camera is that it is full frame, it is a video first camera, has great autofocus, has great low light capabilities, has pretty good and pretty decent image stabilization, and then all of that in a pretty compact form factor. Also, it could be that you would have been thinking about the Sony a7S III or an FX3, but those two are definitely on a price category of their own, and you were just not willing to pay that money for a camera, like I did not. So the ZV-E1 appears as a contender, as it has the same sensor and therefore similar image quality, similar video capabilities for much less money. For me, the main reason to get it is that I've had the Sony ZV-1, the compact camera, for quite a few years actually, and I've been loving it very much. I also love my Sony a7 IV, and if these two had a baby, probably it will look a lot like the Sony ZV-E1, even though they are not quite sure whether the father is this one or an a7S III. The form factor is great. I like how compact it is. If you have big hands like me, it might be a little bit too short, but I fixed that with basically all of my cameras with a base plate from SmallRig. That does two things for me. One, it gives room to put my pinky, and second, now we have an Arca Swiss plate mounted all the time in the camera, which is practical when you go and make videos like this one. And what have I been using it for the last 6 months? Well, most of the YouTube videos I've done, even if it's few, they have been shot on this camera. Then right now I'm working on a small testimonial video for work. Making videos has nothing to do with my actual work, so I just happen to be a camera nerd, and when they ask, I don't know how to say no. So I had to find a good, easy solution to make those videos so that they would still look good enough for my own standards at least. So what we did was basically just use natural light from the windows. Then I took my Thomann 20 to 40 f2.8, which is a super versatile focal length zoom lens, at least for my taste. Then I took the DJI Mic 2, which happily is a cable-less solution with the Sony ZV-E1, and that's about it. Then I thought I'd be using a small tripod, so I brought one, but the people that are in the videos, they decided they want to be standing up. We were doing this between meetings as well, so I just decided to use the active stabilization for the Sony ZV-E1. Just hold it tight, and it's really good for that particular purpose. I'm really happy with the stabilization, especially compared with some prior experiences with Sony cameras, and comparing them to the good ones like Panasonic and Olympus. Another situation where I have used the Sony ZV-E1 in this last year was a tournament that my daughter's basketball team had on the spring, and we made a kind of a mini documentary of it. So I was filming some of the games, I was making a couple of interviews with the girls, and that was a lot of fun. And again, having such a small camera with really good video capabilities and low light capabilities, because we were indoors and not always well lit, it was really good. Another thing that the ZV-E1 has going for it, and that's not exclusive to this camera, so this is something that many other Sony cameras have, is the multi-interface hot shoe, which means that we have cable-less microphone solutions. My favorite ones, or the ones that I use and I own, is the DJI Mic 2 and also the Sony ECM-M1. If I compare it to bigger cameras like the Sony a7 IV, those have a lot more dials and buttons that you can customize at your liking. But what the ZV-E1 has going for it is a really good touchscreen, and now in these newer Sony cameras, they have a lot of options on the sides in addition to the quick menu that you can customize. Let me show you. So yeah, we have on the top a C1 button, there's this C2, there's this function button which usually pulls up the menu, and then we have the 4 buttons around this scroll wheel, and all of this is customizable via the menu, and that's pretty handy. Still, as I said, less buttons than the a7 IV, for instance, but what I like is to have these extra kind of soft buttons on the touchscreen, which are quite practical. Here we can change, for instance, the mode of the video settings. So now this is set to video, but if we don't have a PASM dial, so the program aperture priority, shutter priority, and manual, this is a very easy way to set them. We have a timer there. We have the different levels for the or options for the microphone, which is on top, which is a pretty good microphone, by the way. So it can basically point forwards or backwards or be automatic. So that's good. Then this Cinevlog, it's a bit gimmicky, so I'm not going to go through it. But then there's the product showcase, which of course will make a difference on the autofocus performance if there would be a phase where now we have books. So let me turn it off. You could turn on the recording also from the screen if I would have a card right inside, which I don't right now. And then what kind of autofocus recognition system. So usually have it at face autofocus because I put a face here. But this has also animal detect, specific animals, then birds, insects. You're not gonna see me testing that. Then also car, train, if you're doing car or train videography, I suppose, airplanes, or then human. So very easy to set from here. Then we can access also the playback button. I wish this would be something different. And then the buttons on the bottom, or actually the settings on the bottom, are also editable from here. So if you really want to have a dedicated button for white balance, well, there we go. Here it is. So in a way, it does have a dedicated button. Same thing for ISO and the aperture and the shutter speed. So lots of things can be done from here. And additionally, like many other Sony cameras, as I said, function button, and this is fully customizable. And you notice that I've been talking about using the camera and the buttons and how it feels and using the stabilization. I have not mentioned image quality, but the fact that we already talked about that this camera has the same sensor than the Sony A7S III and the FX3, that would be the answer of how about the image quality? It's great. And if you know how to deal with color grading, it's fantastic. 42, 10-bit, 60p, 4K without crop. It's seriously, it's great. And then a few things that are an issue for people. So if you're researching this camera, you might have heard that, hey, it overheats, only one memory card slot, it has no EVF, it doesn't have a mechanical shutter. The question is, are they big issues for you? They have not been for me. First, the lack of EVF. I don't use an EVF when filming video. So that's it. This is my camera that I use just for video. I don't take pictures with it. So the lack of EVF does not bother me. One memory card slot. I am not a professional. Maybe those guys really need the backup capabilities and whatnot. One is more than enough. And bonus points. Most of these a bit more compact cameras, they have the SD card slot in the same place where the battery goes, underneath the camera, which is kind of annoying and cumbersome. And this one, they had the good thought of putting it actually on the side. So really easy to empty it or take it away, even when it's on a tripod. Overheating might be an issue. I don't know. I've never had an issue. And I've been recording a few of these long talking heads. I've been using it a lot again to record basketball games. And maybe it's because Finland it's cold, but it's not been an issue for me. And finally, the mechanical shutter, similar with the viewfinder. Mechanical shutter and viewfinder are things that I want in the cameras that I use mostly to take pictures. But since I just shot video with this one, not a big issue. If I want to take pictures, I'll take the A7 IV or maybe a Fuji X-T50. How about alternatives that are comparable in price in the Sony ecosystem? That would be the A7 IV and the FX30. The FX30 is clearly video focused. It's more professional than this one. It has a bigger body. It does not overheat. If that has been an issue for you with the fans and everything, it has a dual card slot, but it does have the smaller sensor. So for me, I prefer the bigger sensor and the bigger low light capabilities of the ZV-E1, and I can totally deal with the less professional body. Compared to the A7 IV, it depends on where you put more pressure or emphasis. If you're definitely video first and mostly just video, Sony ZV-E1. If you're hybrid or more towards pictures, I would go with the A7 IV. And you can get both because you didn't get the A7S III, so you save some money. All right, now I'm curious, if you have already a Sony ZV-E1, what do you love about it and what does annoy you from it? And I'm interested in what does annoy you particularly, but not what have you heard that annoys others, because this to me was maybe the biggest learning. Overheating, lack of EVF, one memory card slot. There are issues for some people, not for me. If they're not for you, the Sony ZV-E1 might be a really good option. I hope you liked the video. If you do, please like and subscribe, and we're gonna see you soon for some more content.